Good afternoon, Shrenik. Welcome to the session. Great to meet you here virtually. First and foremost, I hope everyone is safe, both at home and the larger QBE family as well. And what a sequence of time here to talk about some of the MuleSoft stories here, and look forward to catching up with you on your experience here as we go through this journey. And just to tee us off, Shrenik, maybe if you can provide some context and background in terms of the MuleSoft transformation journey that QBE went through, that you led for QBE.
Sure, Martin. Thanks for giving this opportunity. It's apt how you mentioned, it's interesting times and how suddenly everything has gone towards a digital world. A lot more than before. There always used to be a lot of chatter around, here's the digital strategy, and one fine day and short of one weekend, suddenly everybody's gone digital, right? It's interesting times we live in. So, touching a little bit around how QBE started its journey around the whole API strategy was around, I would say, 2016. Late 2016, we started looking at different ways where we could leverage some of the APIs we have to enable faster business growth that could happen. And it's interesting how it started off. It started off with, let's take an end-of-life system because a lot of our API platform was becoming stale and insecure. And the idea was, what do we do next? And that's when it struck to us that we got to leap to the next strategy, which is go with the microservices API-driven approach so that when the digital journey reaches the maturity level, we are right there and we are right in that mainstream to deliver some of the benefits that our business would require. And that's how we kind of started our journey. It's been about 3 years now. We have about 300 plus microservices within the environment, on the MuleSoft platform. And, we've done everything from batch to real time to streaming, to helping modernize our legacy platforms, to enabling new business services along the way. So quite an interesting journey.
Shrenik, I think one of the things too, if I recall from our conversations from way back when, the complexity of the business that QBE is in North America played a significant factor in how this transformation journey evolved. And I do recall like there was a number of discussions that you've had with your colleagues from the business in terms of understanding how these things would kind of evolve and help shape the business benefits as well. So maybe if you can kind of highlight some of the business challenges that you had to operate within as part of this transformation journey, that would be helpful.
Yeah, I think the key issue there's lots of different, I would say there's lots of different components along the way, right? We had external vendors we had to integrate with. And when I mean vendors, not IT vendors, right? We're talking about business vendors. We're talking about connectivity to LexisNexis to make sure, your certain kind of checks are happening correctly, connecting to DNB database, right? So lots of vendors that we would have to connect to. And some of our biggest challenges came with trying to talk to our external vendors and figuring out if they are ready to take on a new API service from us and associate that. The timelines kind of get extended when you have to do that. The second part of the aspect was a lot more internal. When you have a typical job that's running in a batch process, but the requirement is really to have it real time, your performance standards change significantly. I'll give you an example where QBE integrates with a lot of external partners, for what I call is the renters business.
Right.
We are also available on a platform with Progressive, with Arrowhead, and a couple of others. These kind of integrations are really key from an API and a technology upliftment, because it's important from the perspective, the response time is very, very important, right? if somebody's connecting to some of these portals, and if the response time is very long, you're just going to lose that customer. You're going to lose that
Right.
customer. They're not going to come back. They're going to go to someone else, and they're going to do the deal. So performance standards were really important when we were doing some of these integrations. Uh, so those were some of the challenges that we come across. Uh, One of the challenges, and I think the reason why I want to mention this is as a lot of companies start looking at modernizing their legacy integration platforms, having a robust documentation on the business functionality of what that integration does today is extremely important. Because if you have that, developing that new API or a new microservice becomes a lot more easier.
Right. No, well said. I think the landscape itself, I think, at that point in time, QB had pretty much all kinds of technology stacks, all the way from, mainframe to mid-range and even SaaS. And there was a lot of orchestration that happened. I believe that, that we went through this journey. And that's definitely a very, very interesting case study in terms of how you went through this. Now, looking at those complexities, now one of the things also that I recall that you had mentioned quite a bit in our earlier discussions was around how this is not just a technology integration a play, right? It was there was lots of things that you had to set the standard for from an organization standpoint, from an operating model standpoint, right? Maybe can you share a little bit of that experience in terms of how you went about looking at it in terms of agile, DevOps, and those types of things that were sort of the torchbearers for the organization at large?
Right, right. So look, I think the key part was not just let's just move to a new platform, right? If you look at the entire ecosystem that you have to set up, you want to make sure you're doing a true enablement. And one of the premise for using MuleSoft was it works as a center for enablement, right? Uh, the key aspect there was how do you set the platform up so that from the time you start about creating to publishing, uh, opening it up for different user case, right? What is that entire journey looking like, and what is the time it takes for you to build and design the service to actually connecting it external or internal partner, and then trying to see the benefits that go along. One of the key aspects along the way was obviously monitoring, a continuous monitoring along the way to see if the performance drops below a particular level, what kind of alerts you get, and how do you react to those alerts, right? The initial strategy was, hey, look, the alerts will come in, and as they come in, we'll see what needs to be done, and we'll take care of it over time, right? Versus where we are now today is the alerts come in. If it's an alert that has happened in the past, it has become quite adaptive to the point it knows what the fix should be. So it's gone a long way from just saying let's put a platform together all the way to doing something on the cloud platform, which is what the Anypoint MuleSoft platform accommodates us, right? And thanks to again, I know you guys are on there, but thanks to Accenture for helping us with their journey get to that Anypoint platform, which is playing a very crucial role because now you have an API strategy that's centrally managed. You have a catalog of all the APIs that are out there so that a different region, if they want to pick this up, it enables much faster integration, give or take a few changes that they may have to make to adapt to their situation, right? And that's pretty crucial in this day and time where a lot of things were on pause for quite a bit of time. Things are coming back up now globally, but it becomes pretty crucial to kind of figure out what's happening when at that point in time, and to be enable us to fire up a new service or a new integration with a new partner becomes a lot more easier if you have something already in your back pocket to start running up with.
Right. Shrenik, as you went about setting up the C4E, one of the things that QBE prides itself on is the One IT DNA, right? I mean, as part of that, you had to orchestrate several teams and stakeholders in this journey. Can you share with us your experience kind of assembling that high performance team?
Yeah, that's right. So we've had there's lots of different groups that have come together to get this platform to where it needs to be. One of the key user and the key stakeholders in the entire ecosystem is the business operation users. They know the functionality best on how it works, how the API is supposed to perform, what is the output that needs to come out, followed by you would have the infrastructure folks. You need a very strong association with them because first, it's where your platform is going to get deployed. Second, you also want to make sure that the endpoint infrastructure, the two systems that the API is connecting to, is seamless, that connectivity. There were many times when we'd have to set up virtual IP addresses at the endpoints just to do certain kind of testing. And that team was phenomenal in bringing the whole thing up and running very quickly. We also had to work very closely with the release management team because we're doing deployment almost on a weekly basis. We wanted to make sure a lot of the items were checked on, all the stakeholders were involved and informed appropriately. So when you look at the entire ecosystem between, your testing partners, development partners, the business users, the actual business users at the endpoints, your external or internal partners who might be using your service, you want to make sure that you bring them along the whole journey, on day one itself, right? You have to have this articulation point on day one saying, a 20-minute call that says, here's what we are proposing to do, here's why we want to do this, and here's the role we expect you to play in this journey. As long as you have that commitment, you're in good shape, right? So it's very important to have that whole 190 picture because a lot of the integration API effort becomes very, very CIO driven. And the onus is on the CIO to go out and say, here's how this will benefit the business, and here's what you could do with it, because you're now getting ahead of the reaction, right? It becomes a lot more strategic play versus a business coming in saying to you, hey, can we do this because we're going to integrate with a partner, right? So it's become very crucial that, a CIO works very closely with the business members and the business leaders to come up with a collective strategy around it. And thankfully at QBE, it's been phenomenal. Most of the business and execo and the CIOs were working in lockstep to get this thing delivered that eventually paved the way for better business benefits.
Right. No, thank you for that insight. Definitely, trying to bring everybody together was a cornerstone for the success of this program. So, kind of looking back at it, what started off as a legacy modernization exercise, evolved into a vision for transformation. You had to do some path-breaking work in terms of trying to establish some new concepts and technology and innovation, and bring everybody together. Lots of heavy lifting, internal, external.
Right.
All this put together now, after a couple of years now. How's the cake now? Has it been baked well? How are the businesses enjoying the benefits?
It's been amazing. We've had practically, I would say, no outages given the way we've done the platform. And we're talking about previously where you'd see numerous outages and you would see a lot of our vendors, external partners kind of complaining, saying, hey, we are having some connectivity and performance issues. Performance has increased tremendously. We've been able to integrate very, very quickly, especially in the claim space, with a lot of our external partners, which has improved our customer satisfaction in a very big way. I think, given if somebody would ask me, would you redo this a different way, and I would absolutely say no. I think this is the way to go. And we are now at a point where we are taking and looking at our entire catalog and now coming up with a common core insurance API strategy. And what I mean by that is we are on a path and a journey working with the business where we're saying, look, here's the core insurance APIs that you would almost any insurance company would use. What would it take us to take the lead and say, let's standardize these across the industry. Let's work with different partners and organizations to come up with a common strategy so that it becomes much more easier to talk between different agents, different brokers, that entire strategy that's evolving. So, we're working very closely with MuleSoft on this. Accenture, you guys have been involved very closely on the strategy. And our business partners have been involved in the strategy. There's a huge push to kind of say, let's take this to the next level. If I may, it's almost similar to open banking in so many ways, but it's got some ways to go before we get to that level of standardization and maturity across that industry from our API strategy.
Well, that's a phenomenal story in terms of how you achieved that platform stability, which was a key thing, and trying to get that the branding out in the market in terms of QBE's availability and responsiveness. I think that was a phenomenal change there, and also this whole open API in terms of your next steps. That's definitely visionary, at least in the insurance industry, and definitely look forward to some more great stories on that topic. And again, once things settle down now, Shrenik, definitely want to thank you for your time today, and look forward to meeting you in the near future, and hopefully we can break bread. Thank you.
Same here. Hey, thank you, Madhvin. I think we're on to something really good and big with everything that's happening. And, I think one of the folks, I was having a conversation the other day, and somebody mentioned to me, so what's a big deal? I mean, what are you going to do? What's going to happen to the insurance industry with everything pretty much shut down, right? What's going to happen? I said, look, it's in a sad way, but in my own optimistic way, look at all the space travel that's going to happen very soon, right? If planet Earth is crowded and people want to take a ride out, you are going to be able to do that soon. And guess who's selling insurance to them, right? And then you take a step forward and say, okay, so how does API strategy fit into that? And I say, that's exactly where it fits in. If you want to connect to NASA's API services in real time, find out what planets or what elements are orbiting the Earth at any given point of time, you can find that out easily before the launch, and you can ensure based on that, right, what's happening to those spacecrafts and the space travel. So there's interesting times coming along. Yes, we have to get through this today, but I'm very optimistic about what the future holds. Thank you.
That's outstanding. Yeah, thank you, Shrenik.